So we're going to continue with our study of the sugya here on Daf Yud Beis according to the Ramban. And we're going to look at the insights of Rav Soloveitchik to this Ramban, which have been recorded here in Reshimos Shiurim of this long essay. I sent you 2 pages. I'm just going to read the last 4 lines, which is just really the Ramban's quote of the Gemara on the previous page. That's Kuf Lamed Vav, the last 4 lines. And the Ramban writes, Toshma, the Amrinan Shachris Posach B'Yotzer Or, V'Sien B'Marav Harovim Lo Yotzer. Piresh, Shebirech HaBrocha Kula B'Yotzer Or. So he recited the entire bracha of Yotzer Or, which is fine. That's exactly what he was supposed to do. But unfortunately, he ended the bracha, Baruch Hashem, Marav Harovim. And that's equivalent, says the Ramban, to a person who is holding on to a cup of wine, cup of beer, and when he gets to the Siyum HaBracha, mistakenly thinking that he has wine, he recites Bari Priya Gofen. And he's not Yotze. And on the top here of page Kuf Lamed Zayin, he says, Shema Mino Basar Chasima Azlina. In other words, he's not Yotze if the Chasima was not the appropriate Chasima. And here, in the case of Kriyat Shema, he ended the bracha for Shachris with the Marav Harovim of Arvis, and therefore he's not Yotze. So too, if he ends his bracha on Shecha with Bor Priya Gofen, he's not Yotze. Bor Priya Gofen cannot be Motzi Shecha. Uparik, and the Gemara rejects this. Hasam Ika Bracha B'Chasima. Says the Ramban, Klomar, Li Olam Emelecha B'Pasach B'Deshikra Adeshikra Afagav Desi B'Dechamra Yotza. Because again, what is the Ramban's understanding of the scenario of the sugya? He adds mistakenly Bar Priya Gofen after Shahakal Nia B'Dvar. And the Ramban is not going to argue in the Gemara's rejection that perhaps he's Yotze. Why? He already completed his bracha perfectly with Shahakal Nia B'Dvar. Umay Diomar Basar Hachi. Okay, he adds Bar Priya Gofen. That's meaningless. It's not Mila Lomorid. It doesn't undermine his bracha. The Afagav de Toiba, even though he mistakenly thinks that he has wine, less lan ba, because as we said before, Nishlu Abrachasa Kil Chasa. Amal Bibraisa Kevan Sheyesh Ba Chasima. Adif Mitoref habrachos who becholzman sheshina lo yotza. That's a tough line. Let's see if we can figure that line out. Now I got it. The Ramban is arguing that when he adds Marav Harovim, he's adding it to the Toref HaBracha. And why is that so? Because it's a bracha that has a chasima in it. So as long as you didn't get to the chasima, which is Yotze HaMa'oros, if you added Marav Harovim, then that Marav Harovim becomes part and parcel of the bracha, and it disqualifies the bracha. So it's not like the case where he said Shakal Nia B'Dvaro over Shechar properly, and then he adds what the Ramban calls Dvarim B'Chdi, Bari Priya Gofen, based on his mistake, Mili B'Chdi. but rather here, the Marav Haravim is part and parcel of his bracha. Now, I'm not 100% sure if, according to the Ramban, the case in the Bryce is where he says, Baruch Hashem Yotzer Marav Haravim Yotzer Ma'oros. That I'm not clear on. He says, Lefi Ramban, Hagmar Mochicha Me'aresha, the Afal Pisha Posach V'Omar Nusach Shel Yotzer Or, Ad Shehigia L'Chasimas HaBrocha, Mikeven Shesiyim B'Marav Harav Lo Yotzer. Umizeh Muchach Dechal Din Akira Toch Kidei Dibur B'Brochos. So what does this mean? He recited the entire bracha properly as the bracha of Shachris Yotzer Or, but then his chasiba was Marav Haravim. And the Gemara thinks that this is called an akira. When he finishes with Marav Haravim, that's called an akira. And the Gemara rejects it because it's not an akira at all, because the takana was to make a bracha, a Baruch Atah Hashem at the end, at the conclusion of the longer bracha, with a chasim at the end, and that chasim is an integral part of the bracha, so it's not an akira. That is the bracha that he recited. I'm just not sure. Again, let me just think again about what I said before, that maybe he recites Yotzer Ma'oros and then Marav Haravim. I don't know. That's not the impression I get. So the Rav here is going to try to understand the back and forth, the Shakla V'Tari of the Gemara. Nira. The Ahavamina Shebegemar Nokta Kibira Rishon, the Mesafgalon, Ichal Din Chazara, Tokadei Dibur Bebracha Solo. The Dilma Din Tokadei Dibur Lochal Bebrachos Klal, Mishum Chomer Inyan Abracha, Kumoba Vadazara, Gitin and Kedusha. V'lachein, Hevi Raya, the Birchas Kriyat Shema. Tehine, Haramban Behemshech Dvarav Kovash Adin, Shekol Mokom Sha'omru Laharich, Yefshel Katzer, Areu rak din rak lechatchila. Ach b'diavad yotza afilu b'bracha ktsara. V'im kain b'shachris k'shaposach b'yotzer or v'siyim b'marav haravim ar yotza b'diavad mishum shebirech bracha ktsara the yotzer or b'psicha. So it was meant to be a bracha arucha with a chasima, and he made it into a bracha ktsara. And he's yotze. V'hadi isa bebraisa de lo yotza, tzarich lomar mishum dechala akira tokidei dibur, af bebrachos. V'lachein Achasima b'marav harov mokeres uposelis. When we can raya, sha'af b'brachos yesh tokadei dibur. So I'm just going to summarize the main point of this entire paragraph, and that is that with the psicha of Yotzer Or, he fulfilled his mitzvah already. Even though it's a bracha arucha, he made it into a ktsara, but the halacha according to Ramban is that if you take a bracha arucha and you make it into a ktsara, you're Yotzer. So he was already Yotzer. So kvar nishlama birchasim. And now he adds another chasima of Marav Haravim. And if the halacha is lo yotza, it's because there's halacha of akira that passes a bracha. Yet all this is tokadei dibur. Okay, so now we want to reject this proof. And I think what we're going to say here is that since it's a bracha arucha, when he adds Marav Haravim, that becomes an integral part of his bracha, and therefore it's makalkil. So it's not midin, akira, chazara, it's none of that. Let's see. Ramban mevayar de gemar mitaretzet de ika bracha b'chasima. Klomar, mikemet shadayim tzorach lachtom is lo nigmara bracha. Because he has not yet finished the bracha. So we want to underline those three words. Lo nigmara habracha. Masha'enke b'sugyan shekvar nigmara cheftzah shal habracha kshomer shakol liya b'dvara. And there maybe he can no longer be oker what he accomplished. Mishum kach hosafas bar pri agafen ena klum. Ve'ena makalkel sabrocha d'shakol libidvara. So again, in the Havamina, the Gemara thought that when he finishes the bracha with Marav Haravim, he's basically undermining and negating his bracha, because he could be yotzi a bracha arucha with a bracha ktsara. So you see that there's such a thing as an akira, and therefore in the case of Bar Pri Agafen that he added to shakel, he was okay the bracha, and he's not yotze. And the Gemara rejects this. The Gemara says no. The reason why when he finishes Marav Haravim, he's not Yotze, is because it's a bracha arucha, and the Marav Haravim is part and parcel of the bracha. But in the case where he completes his bracha on Shechar with Shakal Ni'advaro, and then he adds Bar Pri Agafen, he would be Yotze. Because there's no Akira after Kvar Nishlama bracha. Vindire. The kan agemar no ketes kibira sheni anal the misafgalon the akira tokide dibur ichala lekalkala bracha achreisha bracha kvar chala v'nigma the shiny hocha b'rikas yotzer or to be'etzem have your bracha arucha the tzricha psicha v'chasima v'lo nigma psicha b'lvad l'chein ha'chasima Shebetos mekalkel supposelis. The Eina Domel Abayas Hagamar B'Shikra Mishum Shesham Abrocha Nigma V'Chala Mishum Hochi Yeshlomer the Din Akir V'Tok Teidi B'Lo Chal V'Yev Shalakal. Okay, so that's more or less what we said before. He adds here a piece in which he says that Kan Hagamar No Ketes Kibira Sheni. So I don't, that will have to, but I don't think it's necessary for us. All right, now Ramban Himshich Bebira Gemara, Vizel Shona. The Ashkechan, Bakshinon, Han Nichel Rav, Yesh Lomar, Hakol Holech Achar Hachitu. sheyesh bo bracha. In other words, we can consider Baruch Atah Hashem Yotzer HaMa'oros, or Marav HaRavim, which comes at the end of the bracha, as a full-fledged bracha, because we mentioned the name of Hashem. And therefore we could say that he's still part and parcel of the bracha. Solo nigmar bracha. However, Rabbi Yochanan, Michael and Meimar, according to Rabbi Yochanan, you can't define the chasima as an integral part of the bracha because it doesn't mention malchus. Hello, ikar bracha b'poseach. V'i ika lefluge mishum bracha de psicha ipcha mistabra. Reisha yotza, seifa lo yotza. Makol holech achar poseach sheyesh bo malchus. So I'm not sure what he means by Reisha yotza, seifa lo yotza. I think maybe he means Reisha means the first part of the bracha he was yotza, and the seifa not. El karchel to Rabbi Yochanan bracha shebechasima eina el kishar tovsei brachos. Ahavi leikomer bracha to Hashem elokeinu mechalam yotzer or umarav haravim, which is a perfect parallel to shakol nibidvaro and bar priagofen. If Kalim Rabbi Yochanan my pasach hu my siyam de ktani achasima. Lomar sheposach bechasima brachato Hashem yotzer hamaoros amarav harovim diktoni lo yotza dahainu bayan ubir dvarav nir. Again, the language of the Ramban is always very challenging. So the Rav tries to interpret this. The Gemara show eles alanal divid bracha rucha bracha lo nigmar bepsicha belvad uksheyesh stira ben apsicha ben achsima amrinan shachsima kovas. Is hanicha lerav disfir the kol bracha shem b'shem bracha. Yesh achsimi yesh b'shem nechsheves likar bracha. V'holchem achrea b'bracha rucha bein lekalkel bein letaken. Ach al liv Rabbi Yochanan disfir le teikar bracha b'shem umalchus and came b'bracha rucha. Yesh shem umalchus b'psicha is ikar bracha apsicha. V'lechen apsicha tzricha lekvoa et chalos habracha v'la chasima. The lama isa bebraisa shakol holech achar hachasima leficha kovas hagemar ta'liv Rabbi Yochanan chayom lefarish the braisa shakol holech achar hachasima demayri bechasima atzma shechas amruchat Hashem yotzer ha'ma'oros umarav haravim v'amrina the holech achar hachasima v'lo yotza. He's davening shachris and he adds marav haravim. He's not yotzer. Behind bayan, the afal pisha chasam v'gomer kol nusach habrach kedasu kedin. Right, as we said before, kfar nishlema bracha is mikom makom chala kirito kedei divela kalkala. So I see that the Rav is not going to. It seems that the Rav is not addressing the issue of the dates and the bread. That's a little bit of a disappointment to me. Unless I'm missing something here. All right, we'll go on. Ubibir dechias hagemar kosmer Ramban Umefarkinon kiderabba bar ula diyama kidei lahazkir midas yom balayla. Klomar, Olam, this is the Ramban's language, Olam kiddushaninon de ikar bracha b'chasima. Heichada malchus b'psicha enomi ein chasima. I think what he's saying is that even according to Rabbi Yochanan, with regard to Shemu Malchus, and therefore we would assume that the Chasima is not Kovea because there's no mention of Malchus. But now that we have Rabba Bar Ula, then we could go back to the Chasima. And the Iker Bracha b'Chasima, why? Heicha de Malchus shebepsicha enu mein Chasima. There's like a disconnect between the Psicha and the Chasima. And in such a case, Bekulo Basar Chasima is Lina. It's like there's a separate halacha here that the Chasima is Kovas, even though there's no Malchus in the Chasima. Shiny Hochashenu Ela Kimazkir Midas Laila Bayom, Midas Yom Balayla. Hilkoch Reisha Lo Yotza, the Ikar Brocha the Arvisi, the Sefer Yotza, to Shachrasi. What does this mean? Ubevir Dvar of Nireh, you have this, right? I think I sent you this page. The B'derech Klal, Alibed Rab Yochanan, Sichas Abrocha Kovas Chalos Abrocha, because he mentions Malchus. Afilu Kineged HaChasima. It, shall we say, trumps the Chasima, Mishum Sheish Hashem. Masha'enke B'Berachot Yotzer Or Umar Varovim, the Ein Psichasam Kovas. This is the exception to the rule, and that's based on Rabba Bar Ula. Sheish B'Psichasam Midas Yom Midas Laila. V'dafka b'brachos elu hachasima kovas afal pisha ein ba malchus v'lo psicha sheyesh ba malchus. Okay, I don't know why is that so. I'm missing the. There's one piece in the middle here that I'm missing. Ubechein Gemara Choseres lePirush Harishon. Bebraisa shafilu afilu alibed Rabbi Yochanan to Meirish yesh stira ben apsichla ben achsima beberchas yotze or mar varov mazlina bas achsima. Ach ein ze mitam akiras bracha tokdei dibur. The bracha krar nigma ben vishachola. The bracha rucha bracha lo nigma ela im apsicha. I'm sorry, im chasimasa. B'dafka b'bracha rucha amrinan shakol olich achar hachasimo. Ach lo b'bracha ktsara kigon b'mevarech shakol nia b'dvaro bar piakofen. So again, in a bracha rucha, then we apply the principle Kol Holech Achar Chasima. I was saying that even according to Rabbi Yochanan, because of Midas Yom Midas Laila. That's the piece we don't understand so well, but in any event. So there we apply the principle Hakol Holech Achar HaChasima. Achlo B'Bracha Ktsara, which I guess means he cannot mess up a bracha that's already complete. He says it out loud. Umishum shachrei chalos habracha shakol di'avdvaro efshali okra ula kalkala. Mashen came here, even according to Rabbi Yochanan, hakol holech achar chasima, meaning that he hasn't been mashlim his bracha. That's what he calls lo nigmara ela ima chasima. That's true even according to Rabbi Yochanan, despite the fact that there's no mention of malchus. So again, all logic would compel us to assume that according to Rabbi Yochanan, it's the psicha that's critical, because the psicha has a shem umalchus, whereas the chasima does not. But why is hakol olechacha chasima in the case of birchas yotzer or? And the answer is because of Rabbi Bar Ula, that we have in the psicha both midas yom midas laila. I think what he's saying is that in this case the psicha doesn't have a personality of its own. Right? It doesn't have a definite direction. It doesn't have Marav Haravim Lafuke Yotzer or Yotzer or Lafuki Marav Harav, because both brachos, that of Shachris and that of Ma'ariv, incorporate a Shevat for both Yom and Laila. So Mevela, if the psicha doesn't determine the nature of the bracha, so the psicha is kind of, what's that word I wanted to use? Can you help me out here, Rabbi? So you know that bird that has many, many colors, like all the colors? What's that phrase? They use it as an idiomatic phrase. It's at the tip of my tongue. Did I lose you guys? No, you're still there. But you know what I mean? That, all right. Oh, cami, I think it's called a cami something or other. I'm getting it slowly. So the psicha now is like flexible. You know, it could go either direction. It's both Yom and Laila. So in such a case, Rabbi Yochanan is going to concede that it's not hakol holich basar hapsicha. The psicha can't determine the nature of the bracha and its character, its essence, because it could go either way. It's got both Yom and Laila. So Memela, what's going to determine the nature of the bracha? It's the chasima. So even though the chasima is not a bracha unto itself, according to Rabbi Yochanan, because it's lacking malchus, but it's enough to sort of retroactively reveal and impact on the psicha and give the psicha a definite chalos, a definite personality. Is Memela, in this case, since he ended the Birchas HaShachar of Yotzer Or with the words Marav Haravim, even Rabbi Yochanan would concede that in such a case, he changed the entire nature of the bracha, and therefore he's not Yotzer. But in a case where he said Shakol Nibidvaro on Shechar, and then afterwards mistakenly thinking it's wine, he added Bar Pri Hagafen, it could very well be that he cannot be Oker a bracha Shenigmar of Inishlam. I think it's called a chameleon. Can somebody look that up in Google? Anyway, there's a bird that changes its colors all the time. Yeah. They use it as a metaphor. Now he says, Ayin v'Rabbeinu Yonah. You have that? Haramam Zal mefarish binyan acher sheposach b'deshichra v'siyam b'dechamra yotza. Rotza lomar shegoma kol abrocha kamo im hayeshecha v'achach siyam v'yomer borei priya gofen kodim sheyishte. Wow, that sounds identical to the Ramban. Kigon shomar shakol dia b'dvaru borei priya gofen yotza. So what's the case here? What does he have in front of him? Kevin Shasim Karoi. It sounds like he's talking about a case where he actually has wine in front of him. Let's see if that works. Elahecha did nokat Isa Kosa de Shikra Biade. So in the previous case, he's Yotze because he has wine in his hand. And after the Shakal Bidvaro, he added Bar Priyagof. Now we have a case where he has beer in his hands. So Pasach B'dechamra, thinking that he has wine, he started with Yayin. B'siyem B'deshikra. Kigon, Sha'omar Baruch Atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam, Borei Priya Gofen, Shakol Niya Bidvaro. Mine, Bosar Psichas Linon, Klomar, Achar Masha Omar B'tchila Borei Priya Gofen, so that's called Basa Psicha. And again, what he really has in his hand is Shechar. Oh, or should we say Achar Mashover Besof? And he fixed himself up and correcting himself, and he said, Shakal Yibidvaro, Mabrocha Nemra Karoi. Frankly, I don't see the difference between this and the Ramban. But let's see the next paragraph. Lefira ben Yonah, Harama mefarish the Mesaf Galonim Yochel Lesakin Brocha Tokdei Dibro Lo. Okay, that's what we saw in the Ramban. V'nira Lomar the Pshita the Shechala Chalos Brocha Kedinu Kehechsher Yef Shali Okro Lekalkala Me'achik Trachala Brocha. V'lachem b'Posach Shakol Liabidvaro Ashikro Sofas Bar Pigonim Makalkel So Kersa Brocha Kedinu. You are Suffolk, Marula Hefech. The Hainuim Yochel Litaken Bracha Tokadei Dibu. So again, if he's messing it up, that he can't do. Why? Because the bracha was already chal. But in the opposite question, can he fix up his bracha? Let's see how to fit that into the words of Rabbi Yonah, because I missed this. The knockout kisa de shikraviyah, possible cham, seeing with the so he started with bar priyat gofen, which is the wrong bracha because he's holding on to beer, and then he fixed him. He tried to rectify the situation by adding shakal di'abidvara. So it's exactly the flip side of the Ramban. The Ramban said that it was pshita that he could fix up his bracha if he started with bar priyat gofen and then he corrects himself and says Shakal Niven Dvara. The issue in the Gemara was just the opposite. When he completes the bracha kilchasa and then he wants to mess it up. He makes a mistake and he wants to mess it up with Bar Priyat Gofen. And the Rambam is saying that no, for sure he could fix it up. I'm sorry. For sure he cannot mess it up. But can he fix it up in a case where he said bar priya gofen first and then shakal nibidvar? V'nira the l'shitas Rambam misafkalon ichal din tokidei dibur lahamshich es maisa bracha li'achar shenigmar ukvar birech maisa bracha b'shleimus. Again, one more time. According to the Rambam, we said that the suffix was when he said Bar Priya Gofen and Shakal Nia Bidvar. He wants to fix himself up. The Afal P Al Din Tokadei Dimla Hamshif Maisa Bracha. What does he mean? Le'achar shenigmar ukvar birech maisa bracha b'shleimus. Oh, I see. He's saying he recited a full bracha. Again, he got the wrong bracha because he's holding on to Sheikha and he made a Bar Priya Gofen. But you have to grant him that he has a full bracha. The maisa bracha is a maisa bracha. And now he wants to try to fix up a maisa bracha. The afal pisha pasahu birech betos Bar Priya Gofen al shikra mikom kvar chal maisa bracha gemura machma shebirech ben nusach v'tofes shel bracha shuveni yochel etaknu b'amiris shakal niva tochdei dibur. Okay, but wait a minute. So what case does it work? In other words, if he messed up the bracha, by adding Bar Priya Gofen, one second again. If he had a complete Maisa Bracha, he no longer can fix it up. Okay, but now the opposite. Can he be Mekalkel the Bracha? And there the answer is that the Bracha was Chal B'Shleimus. The Rambam saw, V'yesh l'chalik ben din tokdei dibur b'agoras edus tokdei dibur b'bracha. V'edus the leka matbea mesuyam nimshach Maisa agoras edus ad liachar k'dei dibur. V'meidu od edus b'tokdei dibur edus rishona zay edusa mitzaref l'maisa agodach. Masha enkein v'bracha yesh lomar denigmar v'chal maisa brach miyad k'shegomar lomar matbea shel brach. The afal pidol lekach halos v'hechsher bracha, right? He made the wrong bracha. He said Bar Priya Gofen. The havi bracha l'vatola, the birach al sheikha Bar Priya Gofen. Mikom kom maisa bracha nigmar mishum shebirach al kol panim matbea shel bracha. L'chein yefshel esakna toch kidei dibur. So he did a full-fledged Maisa Bracha, and he can't be Masakin. And why is that? Because in the case of Edus, he's got one continuous Edus. And the Maisa Agada doesn't complete itself until after Kidei Dib. But in the case of Bracha, the Maisa Bracha is complete as soon as he enunciated Eimat Be'eshel Bracha. And that he can't fix up. So once he said Bar Priya Gofen, it's Ge'endik the Maisa, the story's over. Me'idach, Haramban Sover, She'yochel L'saken Bracha L'vatola B'tov K'dei Dibur, Mishum Desfila D'Shabirech Shalok Hogan, Lochal Din Maisa Bracha Klal. Right, the Ramban was the one who said that it's Mili Dichdi, when he thanks Hashem for Geffen and he's drinking beer. The din ma'aser bracha he told him my be'er v'nusach shel bracha. No, it's the general nusach, but rather b'chalos hechsher bracha. What does the bracha come to be matir now? U'shitaso sofek hagmaru adra b'hem chal din kilkul lebracha b'tokidei dibu. Umari debirach kehogen v'chal ma'aser b'hechsher bracha u'mesafkalon. Now he has the shitas arrived. Me'ati yishlan litvos pirush hagaonim shepirshu heicha de nokat kosa de chamra esova de shikru posat b'de shikru v'siyim b'de chamra kigon shom baruch Hashem alkenim al-chalom Shahakol bor pri agofen shafilu was siem v'shikra nami yotza. V'nira de l'shitasa pshita Yeno yochel kalkel brocha tokidei dibur d'lochal din akira lak or ma'aser broch behechsel. Yadra b'sakla gemara im yochel sakein brocha b'tokidei dibur. Shem deve'inen azkaras shemu malchus tochel al chasimas habrach. All right, we'll stop here. Okay, Rabbi, so let me take this opportunity to wish you a Chag Sameach, and b'li neder, I will see you on Yom Rishon. Okay then? Thank you so much.